All right, well, we're back on another episode of the Fashion Hive. This week, again, a different location. So, before we get started, I do want to give a huge shout out to where we're currently located, and we'll dive in a little bit more with our guest as to why we're here and what the significance of our current location is. But we're currently at Swanky's, and that is Swanky Interior Design Gallery, 3410 Main Street, Kansas City, Missouri. So Clarissa is our wonderful, wonderful guest, the owner of Rissa's Artistic Design,
Yes.
and you have been heavily involved in Kansas City Fashion Week. You've been involved in fashion all around the region, um, and even your impact in terms of your pieces are seen all over the nation as you follow people in follow people. The people that I follow, I get to see a lot of your work, specifically in California and some of those, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. Um, but just for a little bit of background here, I met Clarissa. Clarissa was one of the first people that, when I first attended a Kansas City Fashion Week event, that Clarissa and Julie were two of the people that I met first, and so
Yes.
asked me who I was, and was super welcoming. And I really do attribute them to, and our team's great, but I really do attribute Julie and Clarissa to why I came
Aw.
back. And I still have a lot of fun times with Clarissa and Julie during the week of Fashion Week, and it's always I think it's always something that it's definitely an interesting dynamic between you, Julie, and myself.
Right.
Where the age demographic is probably the biggest, but we always enjoy that. So, without going too much further into it, Clarissa, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got started with RAD or Rissa's Artistic Design.
Sure. Again, my name is Clarissa Knighten, Rissa's Artistic Design, and I started jewelry because I battle with depression. And my doctors wanted me to do something different. And this is a story that I tell all the time because this is how it truly got started. I battled with depression. I still battle with clinical depression, and my doctors, counselors wanted me to do something different with my hands. And because I used my sketches to work through therapy, I visited a lady in the city market for a number of years. She said, "You have a gift, you should make jewelry." I wouldn't do it. She finally said, "I'm just going to stop selling to you." And I went with her to a jewelry show, an expo. I bought one strand of beads, made something a year later, and then it just started taking off from there.
Okay. And explain to our viewers who maybe haven't seen some of your pieces, whether that be on the runway or even when you're set up at Kansas City Fashion Week, what your brand is. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, we have some of the pieces behind us, but do you want to break down a little bit of what your pieces contain and maybe why they contain what they
Sure,
contain
absolutely.
or what they're composed of?
So when I started creating Rissa's Artistic Design, started creating jewelry, it was very simple, strung. And then I started going, when I say simple, it's just like one strand, a few beads on it, and a focal piece. And then I started doing crochet pieces, which anything with wire, I love. But my significance behind my brand is there's always something coils. There's coils in it someplace, not in every piece, but I have a signature style that around Kansas City and other places that you would definitely recognize my work. The coils to me represent the inner turmoil that I have sometimes, and it's going to sound kind of different, but those coils represent my intestines,
Mm.
and how I know it's probably, oh gosh, I shouldn't have said it like that because someone won't want to wear my work because thinking of that. But when you think of my work and see my work is very complex and there's a lot going on with it. There might be bike chain, there might be deer antlers or tree branches or buttons, but there's this coil and it just represents that there's always something churning inside of you. And I want, part of my branding is I want people to, if they are quiet and shy, introvert, and they have an event to go to, wear my work and let people come to you and talk to you,
Yeah.
opposed to you having to force these conversations. My work has a tendency to draw people in and ask, what is that, and where did it come from? And that helps you as an introvert to have those dialogues.
Yeah. No, I like that. And that's honestly something that even I think in you and I's friendship for the last couple of years, I don't think I've ever thought of it from that perspective. So like until you just said that right now, I think it's something that I never thought of from it, from the introvert perspective. So that's
Right.
awesome.
Right.
One of the things that I think really sets your brand apart is some of the items that you use, and your designs and your jewelry. It really sets it apart when you're using bike chain and even the wire. I mean, I don't know. I've been to so many events with Clarissa where you've been somewhere or we've been somewhere, and someone asks you, "Did you do all of that by yourself? Did you do all that by hand?" And you're like, "Yes, yeah, I did."
Right.
And
Right.
so. Yes, it is a huge conversation starter. But where did you come about, like I said, using the bike chain and the wood and all of that?
Sure. So the bike chain, several years ago, about 6 years ago, I started cycling, and I was also a full-time artist. So how can I tap into other revenue streams? What other clientele can I go toward? So I experimented and took apart bike chain, put a stone in it, put it back together, and it took off. So I try to tap into that industrial side, and that industrial side can translate between genders,
Okay.
which captures a totally different audience. Even motorcycle riders will gravitate toward that bike chain because it's just so industrial. And if I mix a piece of leather with it, that's a whole different clientele. And then, like there's a piece directly behind your head there of tree branches. West 18th Street Fashion Show, which is affiliated with, or partners, I guess you could say. We support Kansas City Fashion Week and West 18th Street Fashion Show, support one another. But there was an instance where I had to create some pieces, and my sister had given me tree branches, said do something with it. I kept doing small, small, small. That show was coming up, and I did something big. And because I did something big, which was our opening piece, it allowed the Kansas City Museum to see it, which led to a big commission piece. So for me, challenging myself with other materials has led to other opportunities. And so I don't want RAD pigeonholed just in this area.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So to dive in a little bit more with pieces of wood, you also did a piece at Interurban Art House.
Yes.
And do you want to explain kind of what that project was?
Sure.
And I will tell the listeners, this is something that, as Clarissa talks about, it was something that there were people from all over the area that attended this event. And I personally attended, and it was a really eye-opening conversation. And it was really something that I think I know there were people in the audience who normally wouldn't let art help them, and jewelry, all of that,
Yes.
help them with their emotions and understand where they are and that they're not alone in their struggles. So do you want to unpack
Right.
that a little bit more?
Sure. What Santos is referring to is at Interurban Art House, where my studio is located, another artist and I, Rodrigo Alvarez, we constructed a tree, and this tree was built of copper on the bottom and tree branches up top. And I even made tree branches out of copper as well, which was a lot of fun. But we embedded magnets in, and then the audience was invited to put a leaf. And those leaves were depression, PTSD, anxiety, anything that dealt with mental illness or mental struggles. We invited them to put the leaf on the tree. Well, it started off being geared toward men, because men are so reserved and have to stick behind this facade of who they are. Um, but it branched out.
Okay.
But what
Literally and figuratively.
yeah, yeah, right. So the beautiful thing with this was Rico. He worked on his portion separately from myself. We were both residency artists at Interurban Art House, and this was a project. It was around all geared around your mental health. Art heals, and we had a conversation with some area counselors, professionals in this area, and we invited men in particular to come in of all nationalities to just unpack and just talk, just have a safe space to talk. And we were thinking maybe 10 men would show up, but it was probably over 30 people that showed. And of that audience, only maybe 5 were women. So it was very powerful for us to come together as artists, and that's the beautiful thing about what I do with RAD is it allows me to speak my truth and help others to share where they're at and not be judged, give a safe space. So anytime I'm talking about RAD, depression will come out, bulimia will come out, mental struggles will come out, because that is how this brand was built, and I don't want to get away from that. So when I am given opportunity to do other projects, I had never done anything of this magnitude, and it was fantastic. It was a tough journey.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, you spoke to the fact that you're a residency artist at Interurban Art House. For those who don't maybe know what Interurban Art House is, would you like to talk about that and how you got involved with that, and what you currently have there at Interurban Art House?
Sure. So in 2018, I became an artist member of Interurban Art House, and I did not have a studio space there. In 2019, actually coming up in July, I will have been there for 4 years as a studio artist. There's 19 studios, there's 20 plus artists that are there. Probably half of us are full-time artists. There's a sound lab, but it's basically a community of artists that was founded. Interurban Art House was founded by Nicole Emmanuel, and she wanted to bring artists together with affordable art space. It's a beautiful, if you've never been to downtown Overland Park, there's a beautiful fish on the side of our building, and it's just a true community where you can go in and just work on your gift and be surrounded by support and have opportunity to collaborate with other artists that you may not have. And what they also do is there's exhibitions about every 6 weeks that go on, and they give artists an opportunity to show their work that normally would not be able to show their work. So gives them the experience building their CV file. There's all types of things that happen there to build you as an artist.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I really enjoy about Interurban Art House is its unapologetic art, meaning that, and I mean that endearingly, that it again allows for individuals, the artists, to tell their truth, tell their story, and really do a project or be part of a project and be part of a bigger idea of talking, creating discussion or even having some sort of, pathway towards progression forward.
Sure.
And so even when you were talking about that mental health event for men, it was great because there were all sorts of artists there that that had their work on display. That really, I mean, one of the chairs had all sorts of like cuss words and slurs and derogative sayings, but that piece meant something. And to me, it's still one of the things that I think about is that everyone in that room stood around that chair looking for a word.
Right.
And I don't think that you could obviously tell that just by them standing there. They were looking for a certain word to see if maybe their word was on there. The word maybe that they heard in their childhood or from, a spouse or whatever that looks like. And so that was a empowering piece. And to me, that entire event was empowering. I think not to be like, oh, there's not enough men events, but we hear all the time, that there's a fearless leader women event, and that's great. Don't
Right.
get me wrong. I mean, because ultimately, at the end of the day, men have had the upper hand, so to speak,
Sure.
and so
Sure.
there definitely is a place for that. But I think that it's still important, specifically in the mental health realm, for men to have those availabilities to have a safe place, to be able to talk about it. And that event I know hit home for you because there were several people in the audience that
Right.
night, that they were able to have a safe space, and you were able to hear, you were able to see that work and everything that you had gone for. To see me put a leaf on there, to see some other,
Right.
individuals close to you put leaves on that project,
Yes.
I'm sure was
It
very
was
rewarding.
beautiful because we documented what the tree looked like in the beginning, kind of midway through, and then in the end. And to see, we ran out of magnets and people were kind of sticking them different places. It was so impactful.
Yeah.
So impactful.
And now remind me, with that piece, did it travel, or it was intended to travel and it didn't?
Yeah, it was intended to travel, and because it was done in January, mental health awareness isn't until actually this month. The month of May is mental health awareness. And we were intending on applying and trying to get it into some libraries and some businesses, and that is still open. So if you're listening and you would like to see this tree, please reach out to me and we can get it, because it's truly a interactive.
It
It's
is.
an interactive, and if it's in a business, you're able to see how people can pull in and the tree growing for different areas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different things will stand out higher because again, each leaf was a different color.
Yes. And then the other question I have about this, specifically with the tree, did you intend to have the letters that were kind of shaped in there? Because I heard there were two words, and I'm blanking now on what they were, but I remember hearing that people saw two different words in there. Was that your guys' intentions?
So the one word, the name of the piece is care. That was not intentional. As we were working on it, it just happened the way I shaped the tree branches. Another artist saw the word care. And so that's what we titled it. I'm not sure what the other word that they saw in there, but I know care for sure.
Yeah. No, that's
And it was
awesome.
not intentional. It's again, when as an artist, when you really pay attention to being led by the spirit, being led by your artistry, you don't know what's going to, you have your intention, you have your plan, but what truly comes out is anyone's guess.
Yeah. Well, and it's up to interpretation as well.
Yes,
I think that's the
absolutely.
beautiful part about art, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, great exhibit. And again, like Clarissa said, if you're interested in it, it really is empowering. And I think just seeing it, seeing it literally grow that night was amazing. So, yeah. And that's, again, Inner Urban Art House. It's not currently on display.
No.
But it was. But if you've never been to Inner Urban Art House, I mean, talk about a great facility. It's based out of Overland Park,
Yes.
Kansas. And so definitely a place to check out when you have free time. Go follow it on Facebook. They do all sorts of events. And it's something that I personally love going to. It's kind of a hidden gem in the area.
Yes. Yes.
Especially with as bustling as Overland Park is. I feel like it's something that's overlooked. But again, check that out. And you're a mentor there now, right? You're
am.
doing some teaching opportunities there.
So I do. I facilitate a couple of classes that are work of art classes and being ready for festivals. A lot of times as artists, we don't have the tools necessary or don't have the funding to try it out. So the Art House provides scholarships and different things to help people, and I'm one of the mentors that helps with that. Again, had I not become a full-time artist, again, I've been a full-time artist almost 6 years, but had I not done that, I would have never been a mentor. in this particular area. It would not have happened. I wouldn't have this opportunity to be in Swanky's right now had I not been a full-time artist.
Yeah. Well, and that leads right into my next question for you is, where all can we find pieces of yours? So Inner Urban Art House, you live up north, but then you're also based out of Swanky here,
Right.
Swanky Interior Design. Again, shout out because that's where we're recording.
Yes.
But is that all where you're located?
So I have work at the Kansas City Museum. The Kemper Museum carries my work. My studio, again, Inner Urban Art House, is always available, and just contact me for a one-on-one time. But my main studio place, or not studio, but my main retail outlet when I'm not around would be Swanky's.
Okay.
And we met at another event day after Thanksgiving when the whole holiday bustle starts for shopping, and we met at Union Station. One of the owners here, Rick, stood at my booth for, I think, an hour looking at my work, and invited me to do a trunk show, and that was in 2019 into 2020, and I have been here ever since.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's great because, you spoke earlier to how Inner Urban Art House gives artists an opportunity to have a platform that they may not have. This is something that even Swanky's here gives opportunities for
Yes.
Artists and designers like yourself to have your pieces in here, along with furniture, along with paintings, along with lamps,
Right.
But I think it's, this is another great hidden gem, especially with it being on Main Street. If you're ever in the heart of Kansas City, this is a great place to stop by. But I will say they also do happy hours here, and that's one of those things that between networking and giving people a platform like Clarissa, I think it's these businesses that really do deserve the major shout out, because they're a small business supporting other small businesses, or in this instance, artists and
Yes.
other designers, and so I think that's great, and the networking is great.
Yes.
And the amount of individuals that I've met, the one happy hour that I came to here at Swanky's, it was great. And so I think that it's definitely something that, again, follow Swanky's on Facebook, go to their webpage, mainstreetswanky.com, and they would love to see you at one of their events, or even just stop by, tell them that Fashion Hive and Clarissa had you guys stop by.
So Swanky's, what I love about, I never thought, this is an interior design shop. Every time you come in, there's something different. There's something been moved around, or there's new furniture. They go into your home and help you, again, interior designers, and rearrange things. And for me, I have my own case directly behind us, but they allow me to come over here if I don't want to go to Overland Park or have my client come up north. We meet right here at Swanky's. So they give opportunity to us as artists to build our brand, to have a place to meet our clientele, to even help us, because there are some pieces that I have been wanting to do, but I wasn't really sure about it. And they've really encouraged me to just try it. And then let's try it out here and see how their clientele receives those pieces, because I do beyond sculptural jewelry, I now do wall art.
Yeah.
And my wall art is a little bit different. So we just have to, again, this is a great place for me to try things out with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, empowering and giving you a platform, and
Yes.
that's great.
Yes.
One of the things that I think is really sets you personally apart from others, and I say that not for everyone to go rush and do what I'm about to say that you do, because I think it's great, but you also do online shows.
I do.
And I think that's great, and I'll let you unpack that a little bit more here in just a second. But, I think that connecting to your following, connecting to those who may be interested in your pieces, is definitely something that every designer and every business owner should do. But you really take that, not only do you have a newsletter, but then you take that and you add on to it by creating your own events. You know, you're
Right.
not subject to, and if I remember correctly, you said that this came about during COVID, or was this
Yes.
prior to that?
It came about during COVID. What Santos is referring to is I do Zoom shows, and they are literally, I do them in my home studio so people get to see. I have 3 studios, but my home base where I got started has more stuff in it, of course. And you get to see what my design life looks like. And I believe people really enjoy that because now they can see, okay, truly, she did put this together. She didn't take a piece and redesign it. This is from start to finish by Clarissa's hands. So I invited people in during COVID. I tried it out. It worked because, again, as artists during COVID, everything canceled, everything shut down. If you're a full time artist, your income was completely 100% gone. Whereas people in corporate, they had an opportunity to work from home.
Mm.
Well, us, shows canceled, you can work, but who's going to purchase it because the events were canceled? And you have clients and now they're working from home. They're not going in the office, so they don't need as much, for me, sculptural jewelry, or they're not attending these events, so they don't need a piece for events. So how do I stay in front of people and gain new clients? I have the opportunity by doing these Zoom shows to have clients now from all over the world that can log on and watch and purchase. And there's a client that's from Italy, and it was going to cost a lot to send the pieces over there. Well, she has a studio here in not Kansas City, but in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sent them to her Atlanta place. And when she came to the States, she had it and she made more purchases. So again, it allowed me to expand my reach by doing that. And I did it every month during COVID. So much so that people, when I stopped doing them, I would get notes. I just did one not long ago. I would get notes of people saying, you know, hey, Clarissa, what about us? Can you do one? Because again, there's one thing to see my work online, but actually to see it on a person's neck, for me to hold it and zoom in is a totally different experience. And it's all about, for me, it was all about experiences and letting people see and hear other people,
Yeah.
hear how others respond to my work,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting for me.
Yeah. Well, and once the momentum gets going on that, like it was, you know, I think you sold 3 or 4 straight pieces, you know, and so it was like, you know,
It was,
it's contagious.
you know, Melanie says, Clarissa, can you go back and show number 5? Because I do it kind of HSN style. And so it's, here's item number 1, it's this much, and stop me to put it on. And Melanie says, Clarissa, can you go back and try on number 5? And then Sharon jumps in and says, I want number 5.
Yep.
It's so fun.
Yes.
So fun.
Yeah. So in terms of between COVID and then really just your growth as an artist and as a designer, where do you see yourself going? I mean, we've talked about a lot of where you are currently, and we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about kind of how you got started, but where do you see yourself going in the next couple of years? It sounds like wall art is definitely something that you're going to maybe be doing a little bit more of, but is there anything else that we can start to expect coming down the pipeline?
Well, I would hope you would see more installation work. I want some more permanent installation work going up. It's hard for me to answer that question because I would have never thought 5 years ago that I would have permanent work in a museum. So I stay, as I call it, liquid form, and be able to be pliable and be open to trying things, because again, by me trying things has opened doors to other things.
Yeah.
But I can say 2 things particular that I really want, and it'll happen when the time is right. I would love to have my sculptural pieces in hotels, not necessarily chain hotels, but privately owned hotels. I could shout out a couple, but I won't. But I would like my work to be in hotels. And then I really have a desire to have my work on hip hop opera singers, because that is something that's becoming really engaging, the opera, and then combining hip hop with the opera. I just want to see what happens.
Yeah.
And so theatrical work, basically, is where I'd like for my jewelry to go.
Awesome. One of the things that really stood out to me the last time that you and I really had an opportunity to be out in the public together, so to speak, was the Fearless Leadership Summit by Tico Productions. And that was a great female empowerment summit for those of you that weren't able to attend. There were NFL front office individuals who were all females, and being able to talk about their path and their careers and kind of where some of them created their positions, and that was really inspiring to hear. And then, but seeing them come up, seeing those NFL, front office personnel walk up to your table, and they were just in awe of everything you had. And one of the things that you had mentioned to one of the, the guest at your booth was that you also do, you also have objects that people can rent.
Yes.
If they're interested in that. So walk us through that, because I think that's something else that a lot of people don't offer or know that is offered through specific designers.
Yeah. So I'm not the first to do this. Many people have done it before. But again, as a full-time artist, you think about, how can I impact my revenue stream? And how can I help others? So some of my larger pieces, as going to an event, you can't see yourself owning it or displaying it in your home as art, which my work is art, and I would encourage you to display it and let others see it. But I will offer to be able to rent it. And then again, 5 people might rent it, but they're all going to different places, and they're dressed a different way, and their aesthetic is different, so they're going to carry it different. So that allows them to represent my work, to represent my work. And there's other designers here in Kansas City that I'm familiar with that do rent some of their pieces too.
Yeah.
And then you have, think about it. There's clothing there's Rent the Runway.
Yeah.
Rent the Runway. So why not rent the runway for jewelry?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and on top of, not on top of, but buying your pieces also comes with a bag. And I know there's something, you and I have talked about that'll be coming down the pipeline with that as well. But in its current state, the bag that you have, I know a lot of people are just super excited. They're like, oh, wow, I get this on top of the piece of jewelry.
Right.
But talk to me about some of the things that you've seen the people who have purchased your work turn that bag into, because that was something that I didn't even think about until you and I were talking about it the other day on the phone.
Okay, so the bags, Sherry Whetstone made some bags for me for my very first show at Kansas City Fashion Week, because I was thinking, okay, these pieces are larger, how do I travel with them? She made these bags. And then from that, we purchased material from Scraps KC and start making these bags to put jewelry in. And that's how, because I want things to be sustainable. I don't want landfill paper bags, plastic going into the landfill. So use this material and create these bags. And people have used them for tablet cases, lipstick holders, makeup bags. Some have converted them into purses. Some say, Clarissa, I put my jewelry in it to travel all the time, or I put my jewelry back in it. They, oh my gosh, I probably should do a post and say, how do you use your rad bag? Because it's not going to landfill. People recycle them and share them with others. Yeah. And I know we're talking about, we've mentioned Inner Urban Art House and and Swankies and all these other businesses, but that's who I am. I, as Scraps, I like to support other businesses. And that's where you'll hear about me all the time, is that I like to support local businesses. And when I'm not showing someplace, I'm going to someone's art opening or gallery opening or whatever it is that they have going on, trying to support them because they support me and we just become a stronger community when we do that.
I agree. And, one of the things that you bought me a book a
Yes.
while back. And so I say this to all of our listeners and all of our viewers who maybe don't have me on social media. But Clarissa has taken me she's been my mentor and really instilled a lot of thoughts that maybe I hadn't thought of prior to, working in the fashion realm or being involved in the fashion realm. And then also just as it relates to being a person. And I think that's something that a lot of my friends have picked up on that is rubbed off, from you, is the fact that you support your friends, you support your business, your businesses that support you, you support them. And I think that's also, really part of what we're trying to do here at the Fashion Hive is, as a fashion industry, being in the fashion industry and being here, being one of the largest shows in the nation as well. We should be out there, doing, going and talking to designers and meeting with business owners. So I will say that, in our talks, a lot of the Fashion Hive inspiration has definitely come from you. So if you didn't know that, that's definitely something that now and now the listeners and the viewers know. So definitely a huge shout out. And it's always a pleasure to be able to sit down and talk with you about business. We go on walks, we do all of these things. But I think seeing in your element is probably as a friend and as a close friend. I think that excites me the most is when you're in your element and you're at your booth. And I remember we went, Lily and I went down to go see you at, why am I blanking right now? Westport. Thank you. We went down to Westport and saw you, and you're like, you don't have to stay here. You can go look around. And I was like, no, like I want to see, I want to see what's going on. And so, it's always great to see you interact with people. And I think one of the things that I really enjoy about you personally is how relatable and how personable you are. And those are two separate things. But, I feel like that sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the business. And I think you have a really good community around you that kind of grounds you. Like,
yes,
it's and I think Sherry's a great one. Sherry goes to a lot of the shows with you, and she's great as well. So, and Sherry, you guys kind of share booths as well when you're at events. So I think that's great.
So you mentioned Spark the Heart by Dr. Nicole Price. Yes. It's the empathy revolution. And I've always had an empathetic heart, but I didn't realize through reading her book and talking with her, Dr. Price, that empathy, not everybody has it. And so I'm learning to really hone in on myself and what this looks like, what this means to me, and how I can encourage others to take this journey with us. That's again, had I not stepped out of Clarissa and start going to things, I would have never met her, never gone down this new directional path. And as a business owner, it's not always about the finances that come in. It is about the relationships that you build, because those relationships will come back and help you later on in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for that. I did not know that I was part of the inspiration behind this, and I'm very humbled. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, it definitely takes a village, and so you've been extremely insightful, like I said, with some of your thoughts and kind of where things should go. And again, like I said, I know I've said this, but I really do view you as a mentor. So it's an honor to be able to sit down and chat with you, and be able to spotlight you and your business, but really also spotlight the other individuals that help you be who you are and
Yes.
help your brand. So again, extremely great time as always. I don't know, is there anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up?
Nope, I
No?
don't have
Awesome.
anything.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. It's always great to be able to sit down and be around amazing designers and be around individuals who maybe are charting or they're on a path that maybe hasn't been walked before. And I
Yeah,
think that's
just do it.
I think that that's something that you're doing, and then we have a couple other episodes coming down the pipeline that I think are going to be really thought-provoking for those in the fashion industry around the Kansas City area. So stay tuned for that. Clarissa, where can individuals who want to be, follow you and be in contact with you and RAD, where can they find you at? On Instagram, Facebook?
Sure. Facebook and Instagram is Rissa's Artistic Design. If you're on Instagram, it's Rissa's_artistic design. But the best way to do it is to go to my website, www.rissasartisticdesign.com. Get on my email list, because that gives you access to everything that I'm doing. And then even when I post new pieces on my website, you get a little ding that shows that new work has been added. But follow me there to find out what's going on. I'm always sharing something someplace, and I invite you to just come out to my studio at Inner Urban Art House, 8001 Newton, downtown Overland Park, Kansas, or Swanky's.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
Swanky's every final Friday, the final Friday of the month. I am always here from 4 until 9 p.m. So just swing by and say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Clarissa really did. You hit the nail on the head here with your newsletter, signing up for the email. That's an excellent place. Every time I get the email, I immediately go to my calendar and put on the calendar what events you're doing.
Okay.
And so, again, Clarissa is always spotlighting, yes, where you're
Others.
going to be, but also, when she's going to these art shows, think about that. Yes, you can go see Clarissa, and that's definitely part of it. But think about all the other artists
Yes.
that you're going to be able to see and their pieces of work. And really, I think that it exemplifies and really shows that you're highlighting everyone.
Right.
But yes, Inner Urban Art House is another excellent place. Swanky's, come on down. Thank you again to them for allowing us to use their furniture, their facility
Yes.
for this interview. And, as always, please go follow Clarissa on Instagram and Facebook. You won't be disappointed. There's a lot of interesting content, especially that you repost from people who have your pieces all across the world. And it's really interesting to see kind of how they go about wearing those pieces as well, because, again, it's all up for interpretation. So, again, check out Swanky Interior Design Gallery. They are here down on Main Street here in Kansas City. Santos Arellano from Fashion Hive, Clarissa Knighten from Rissa's Artistic Design. Don't forget to check out fashionweek.com, kcfashionweek.com, where our shows are going to be coming up soon. And as you see this, we're going to be counting down the days for a really, really special event that's going to be going on with Kansas City Fashion Week. And so we'll be super excited to be announcing that here in the coming days, coming weeks. And we would love to see you there, and maybe we'll see Clarissa there as well. If not, we'll definitely see you all around Kansas City.
Yes.
But if you do see Clarissa, or if you stop into one of her studios where she's located, let her know that Fashion Hive sent you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We would love to definitely. I know she would love to hear that. And yeah, we'll be in touch. So thank you again, Clarissa.
You're welcome.
And again, thank you guys for tuning in today.
All right. Thank you.